Rightio, welcome to the top 10 super shoes on the market right now. According to me, I've taken together all of the different racing shoes that I've tried both on the Western and Chinese market, and I've combined it into, finally, a nice little top 10 summary, giving you a ranking from 10th to 1st to help you, kind of see where I see all of these different racing shoes sitting in terms of their raw performance. I want to rate them completely on that in terms of their kind of speed and propulsion, their assistiveness, how I feel they would perform in terms of efficiency going from 1st through to 10th, not really factoring in stuff like value and price point and durability and other factors like comfort. This is just purely performance based, how I think they would stack up for me. Now obviously going to be a bit subjective here, a little bit of personal preference, obviously my own unique biomechanics, but I'm pretty confident that these are some of the best on the market right now. And I've also got a few Chinese options in here as well, which might surprise you, or at least give you a new shoe to have a look at, which I think should be useful for a fair few people. So yeah, in terms of distances that I have chosen for, I haven't strictly gone for marathon racing options. I've just kind of said racing shoe with the caveat that I do want them to be able to do multiple races. So I don't want to have a specialist like the Streakfly 2, just a 5K. I want to have something which can do, 5K, 10K half marathon, or maybe half marathon, full marathon. I'm not too concerned there. I do think they're still worth including, but I'm not going to be, going for the 5K specialists, which are super light and have nothing to them. So without further ado, let's get into it. This video is actually being made after I had a bit of a failed S tier list attempt. My video recording for the kind of screen capture didn't work. So I'm going off the top 10 shoes that I've put in there, and we'll start with the Endorphin Elite 2. So this for me is an incredibly fun shoe. The Incredi-Run foam is ridiculous, super soft, super bouncy. It just doesn't feel real in the way that it kind of compresses and rebounds. It's just supernatural, I guess. It feels ridiculous. Really enjoy how smooth it is. I like the kind of seamless sensation that you get onto the road. It doesn't really feel like you're landing and hitting it. It almost feels like you're kind of morphing onto the road with the way that it compresses and kind of molds onto the harder surface, I guess, and kind of smooths out any bumps. Really is easy to lock into a rhythm with this one, and I found it to be perfect for that kind of half marathon pace zone for me. The one reason that it is sitting a little bit further back on this list is because I did find it could sometimes feel a little bit disjointed, where I felt like I wanted to push off a little bit faster than the foam was ready for. But once I've learnt how to kind of work with the shoe and get the timing right, I can find a really nice healthy rebound, a really nice rhythm, which makes this, one of the best racing shoes that I've tried. But it is a little bit further back just because sometimes it can feel a little bit off, but it's not very often now, and I am absolutely loving it. So that's number 10, Endorphin Elite 2. Sitting in at number 9, we've got a relic from the past with a bit of a discussion around the modern version. We've got the Alphafly. Now, I still think this makes it into the top 10 in terms of that super shoe rocket ship propulsion. The sensation up in the forefoot is fantastic. I still love the AirPods. I was a big fan of the Alphafly 3 as well, but as I discussed in a previous video, I did have a bit of problems with calf pain and a bit of forefoot discomfort. The original Alphafly didn't give me that, so I've kind of taken back to this one, enjoying this one a little bit more. And even though it is a bit heavier, even though it doesn't have that kind of super lightweight feel, I do still think this has a place as one of the best racing shoes out there. It is just so protective, so assistive. In the late stages of a race or a big session, I find that you can just rely on hitting that forefoot section and it just keeps on pulling you through. Fantastic racing shoe. It's crazy that Nike stumbled across pretty much the perfect formulation in their first couple of attempts, and it's just been the shoe to beat until now, I guess, where I do think it has been overtaken, but fantastic shoe, still sitting in 9th place for me. In number 8, I have the Dynafish Danian 1, which is the first Chinese shoe on this list. I picked this up at the start of this year, not really knowing what to expect. I thought it might be a Vaporfly competitor. When it came through at 150 grams, I was blown away. It feels like you're wearing nothing on foot, but you still have all of the protection, the propulsion of a modern day super shoe. I would say that the bounce isn't quite as aggressive and kind of punchy as some of these next couple that we'll get through, but it certainly is in that kind of A tier of super shoes alongside the likes of the Deviate Nitro Elite 3 and I guess the Metaspeed series as well. but it just comes in just that little bit lighter, just that little bit smoother with this really nice long extended rocker geometry, which gives you that extra sensation of kind of leverage and power, I guess. It feels like you can put a bit more force into the ground for a little bit longer. Absolutely love the way that this shoe feels. I'm probably not confident enough to take this all the way up to the full marathon just yet, I think in terms of my strengths as a runner, but for the half down to the 5K, I think this has got to be one of the best that I've tried. The Supercritical Puma is holding up nicely as well. This isn't a shoe which is going to completely disappear after a couple of runs. It's holding up nicely after about 70 Ks of running now. The outsole's still going strong. For 150 Australian dollars, if you're looking to jump into the Chinese market, this would be one of my highly recommended places to start. Do just watch out for a bit of a snug upper though. Dynafish Danian 1 coming in at number 8. Brilliant shoe. Number 7 for me is going to be a bit of a divisive one, I suppose. I have got the Wave Rebellion Pro 3 from Mizuno, which I understand is not a shoe that everybody can use because it is so unstable, it is so radical, it is pretty hard to control, but my argument is that once you learn how to run in this shoe, once you can get it to kind of sit in your stride, the level of propulsion and the way that it manipulates your running form is insanely good. For me, a big problem in the marathon especially is calf loading. I usually cramp within the last 2 or 3 kilometers of the race, no matter how much calf raises and strength work I do before. This shoe was the kind of game changer for me in Osaka with the kind of aggressive geometry here, being able to sit back on this and relying on it to kind of pitch me forward, doing a lot of offloading of my calves, shifting the load up to my quads for sure, but I was much more able to handle that deeper into the race and it got me through feeling fresh. Quads were absolutely obliterated the next day, but it offloaded my calves. It gave me this big old sweet spot just behind the midfoot, which again took some time to get used to along the lines of the Endorphin Elite 2 as well. But after spending an entire training block in it, after getting used to it, working out how to kind of best use it in my stride, I do think the propulsion, the offloading, the assistiveness is absolutely brilliant. Mizuno are doing really awesome things over there. I'm very excited for what they have to come in the future. Pro 3 for me coming in at number 7. Very, very strong competitor. If you can get it to work. Completely understand if your ankles are going to snap, not the one to go for, but if you can get it to work, it is absolutely beautiful. In at number 6, I have got another Chinese shoe, the Qiaodan Feiying Plaid 1. Now, usually I wouldn't include a shoe which has been updated for a while, but in the case of a lot of these Chinese racing shoes, you can still reliably find the older versions of the shoe, either with an upper update or just the original version itself because of the kind of vast size runs that they do. So you can still pick this up. This shoe released probably over 2 years ago now. It feels like an Adios Pro 4 with more forefoot bounce, more of a kind of bounce-based ride compared to rock ring, except it was released about a year ahead of the Adios Pro 4 itself. So a lot of people like to rag on Chinese brands for being copycats and everything else. This came out before the Adios Pro 4, and I think that it is fantastic. The TPE foam here is compressive, but not mushy. I think you can get a really deep compression, a really big rebound, and the width of the forefoot gives you this awesome level of protection as well. The midfoot cutout is a little bit compressive, so you do get a touch of kind of inwards motion, but that is quickly balanced out by the width of forefoot. And so overall, despite the softness, despite the cutout, I do think this comes across as a pretty stable racing shoe, which I absolutely love for half marathon distance especially. Probably not going to push it down to the 5 and 10, although it can still do really well. This is a beautiful racing shoe. You can pick it up pretty cheap right now. Can't quite remember the price points, but we're looking on the scale of under $200, depending on where you look. Absolutely brilliant, one of my all-time favorites. Okay, honing in on the top 5 now, I have got the On Cloudboom Strike, which I think is a severely underrated racing shoe. Absolutely love the forefoot sensation here, which is probably a common theme that you'll notice with a lot of my reviews. I really love a shoe with a meaty forefoot, something that really incentivizes getting up and kind of punching into that foam. And with this bounce board of Pb foam sitting on top of the carbon plate, right up against the foot, I think that On have unlocked something really special here. The rest of the shoe I did have some problems with, as you can see. I cut open the heel counter. I found the grip to be pretty terrible as well. But all of that was made worth it by the just unreal bounce that you could find if you manipulated your stride to really punch into that forefoot and get that nice big deep meaty bounce with a good deal of propulsion afterwards. I found it saved my legs, it kept me fresh. It did load up my calves a little bit more than some other racing shoes, so I did still get the late stage cramps when I ran 2:43 in Perth, I think was this shoe. So it wasn't completely foolproof, but in terms of the prep and the confidence that it gave me, I still absolutely love this shoe. I can't wait for this to be updated, or maybe get my hands on the LS. This for me is sitting in number 5 spot pretty happily. In 4th spot, I would have the Asics Metaspeed Edge Tokyo. This has been a really nice inclusion from Asics, dropping the weight, making it more cushioned and comfortable, which is not usually something you see. Usually if you take something down 20 grams, you're getting pretty hard, you're getting pretty firm. This new TPU foam on top is fantastic stuff. Light, airy, bouncy, very, very soft, but not too soft, I don't think. I think the pairing with the old Flight Foam Turbo is a good move. For me, I could happily switch this between the Sky with no thought at all. I would happily flip a coin and go with either. I personally think that there's not a huge difference between the two shoes. In my review, I said that they're like 90% the same, maybe 10% difference for a bit more rockering in the edge, a little bit of a softer forefoot feel, and obviously the firmer heel with the Flight Foam Turbo. But in terms of performance levels, I felt like they were quite matched. I wasn't about to waste 2 spots in my top 10 for a shoe which I think feels pretty much the same. So Edge for me, sitting in number 4, be pretty happy to use this for most race distances. My one caveat, which is probably taking it away from being quite into that top 3, is that it doesn't seem to have quite the level of aggression that I'm probably chasing. I do think it is maybe a touch soft. Maybe it doesn't have that kind of really aggressive geometry to keep me moving and really attack the pace, but it's super comfortable, it's super fast, no real gripes. This is the new benchmark for super shoes, I would think. Getting into the top 3, my top marathon racing option would probably be this one, with the next 2 above it probably being more in the half marathon to 10K range, definitely threatening the marathon, but I'm not quite ready for that just yet. Top marathon racing option would be the Adidas Adios Pro 4. I think this is one of the best blends of performance and comfort that I've experienced. The Lightstrike Pro has this fantastic ability to absorb your force, give you that deep compression, and then give you this absolutely wicked propulsion, which they've combined with a fantastic geometry as well. I feel like I can sit right behind the ball of the foot, get the most out of the kind of guts of the foam, and then have that translated through a really nice aggressive toe off, which just makes it so easy to settle into a pace and just keep the legs turning over. This has got that kind of feel to it where even if the legs are smashed, I can just keep on finding that spot right behind the ball of the foot and just let the shoe almost do the work in the best way possible. The upper is a massive upgrade as well. I've put some serrated laces in, so I've upgraded it even further. Grip's great. It just feels like everything is tweaked to perfection, with the one exception of a bit of blistering in the heel counter. Other than that though, this is a shoe I could chuck on happily for a marathon tomorrow and know that I'm going to be pretty sorted all the way through. Wicked shoe from Adidas. I don't really know how you improve on this. This for me is an all-time wicked racing shoe. Getting into the top 2 now, some of you might know what I'm going to be pulling out next. It's been a little bit of a tricky decision, honestly. These 2 shoes both function in pretty similar spaces for me, where they are completely dominant from the 5K through to the half marathon, but they are maybe just that little bit too aggressive for me right now to go into the marathon confidently. So that is the caveat there. In second spot, I would have the Puma Farstar Nitro Elite 3. This for me is the perfect shoe for my mechanics. It just feels like I can put so much more force, so much more energy through the ground with this extended plate geometry, with the bounce from the TPU foam. It just seems to kind of be everything that I need with everything else cut away. I love the forefoot sensation here. I love that powerful feeling. I feel like it offloads my calves a fair bit, which is weird because some people have expressed that it does the opposite. For me, it absolutely smoked my hamstrings the next day, but during the race, I felt surprisingly fresh. It just feels again like that kind of shoe that you can rely on to keep on dragging you through. It doesn't really care about your feelings, that's for sure. Like, you do need to run in a very specific way to get the best out of it. But going into a race with fresh legs, with that mindset, I don't think I would want many other shoes on my feet than the Farstar 3. I'm not quite marathon ready just yet. I don't think I could get through a full race at this rate, but if I was pushing 230, I think I would be having this shoe on foot, probably, with the exception of this next one. rounding things out, we have my top pick on the market right now with the Doughwin PB Pro. This weighs 160 grams in my men's size 10. It comes in with a fantastic geometry, which again just seems to work with my stride. It's fantastically resilient, it's fantastically light and airy, bouncy, propulsive, assistive. It just seems to give me the most confidence out of any of the racing shoes that I've used. And part of that I can't really explain. I don't know why this shoe seems to work so well for me because there's nothing really crazy going on, you know. The Fast R3 is this monstrosity of carbon plates and cutouts, but this is just a pretty simple midsole base with a pretty sharp rock ring, but nothing too crazy going on. Sure, it's light, but it just seems to come together in the perfect way. For me right now, 10K half marathon is the absolute sweet spot, but I'm desperate to see whether I could take it to the marathon as well. It has this perfect, again, pretty similar to the Fast R3 and the Adios Pro 4. I just find there's this perfect spot right behind the ball of the foot where I get the compression, the full kind of depth of foam, and then it's really quickly transitioning me through into a pretty aggressive rock ring off the front. Durability so far has been pretty decent as well, considering that it is in the similar style to the Evo Pro 1 with the uncompressed foam. I've put about 70 Ks into this, and the only thing that I'm seeing so far is a little bit of peeling on the pod of the other shoe, the pod of rubber on the back, but the uncovered foam is actually lasting quite nicely, so that is hopeful so far. $150 you can pick this shoe up for. For me, this is a brilliant racing shoe. Maybe it's not for everyone, maybe a little bit aggressive, maybe a bit firm, but I think in raw performance terms, this is pretty much all that I need. Absolutely love this shoe. For me, it's taking top spot. Bizarre that you can just stumble across stuff like this while looking through AliExpress and Taobao. Brilliant racing shoe. If you're looking for that next level performer, but you don't want to spend 700 bucks, this would be one to try and get your hands on. So yeah, that's my top 10 list. Feel free to comment, let me know your opinions. Don't tell me that I'm wrong because these are my opinions after all. This is my list. I can't be wrong about my own opinions, but yeah, let me know what would be in your top couple, what you think is worth a look. If you've got any recommendations which you think could perform in that similar kind of space, be absolutely keen to hear them. Let me know.